Sargon of Akkad, everybody. He's got words to say about Alex Jones. So, catch everybody up real quick. Alex Jones basically lost InfoWars, and he lost InfoWars because he was using it to harass Sandy Hook victims. Like, that's the long and short of it. He lost InfoWars because he actively had a part in ruining the lives of just multiple fucking families. That is why he lost it. 110%. Anybody who argues in favor of Alex Jones keeping InfoWars is arguing in favor of continued harassment of families who have dealt with school shootings. That's what they are arguing for. Now that I've got that out of the way and I've poisoned that well effectively, Sargon of Akkad, everybody.
Did it? They finally stole InfoWars from Alex Jones.
Stole? They bought it. It was sold. Nobody stole. They bought it.
I think this is terrible, to be honest, and I hate to see it. But on the
Why? Why do you hate to see a guy who used his platform for the direct harming of others, and he had to admit about that in a court of law? Why do you want that person to continue to have the tool he used to hurt everybody? Like, say somebody's a serial rapist. Do you want them to not to be able to continue doing their shit? What do you do to stop that? You could imprison them forever. You could also sterilize them and remove certain things that they would have used to harm people. You've got options. But do you just let them keep doing it? No. So, I'm sorry, but why should I care that Alex Jones lost a tool he used to demonstrably hurt multiple people?
plus side, I think he's going to be fine. Now, Of
course he's going to be fine, because every single time he gets on, he has this weird, depressed speech about how he can't afford his 11th Rolex that month, and so he needs you to buy more supplements from him.
Quite like Alex Jones, to be honest. And I've always quite liked Alex Jones, because InfoWars...
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't even rape you of Akkad, would definitely love Alex Jones. It all makes sense.
And Alex Jones and his team have always had a sense of humor about themselves. And Alex Jones has always had a sense of humor about himself. And, of course, he said things that I don't necessarily agree with. But ideologically, he's always been a really just straight down the line American patriot. You've never had any...
He's a psychopath who had to admit in a court of law that he plays a character that nobody should take seriously. What the fuck is this? Oh, he's actually just an American patriot. Where's that coming from?
Particularly, I mean, there's been some crazy stuff on his show. But he's always been really familiar to what the average American actually thinks. And...
What? I'm sorry, I almost spat out my food. Alex Jones. Gay Frog's Alex Jones has always been really familiar to what the average American thinks? No, the fuck he has not. That is a claim with zero evidence. So, when I was an Alex Jones fan, I knew that the things he was saying were not believed by 90% of the American populace. It is why his show operated the way it did, because conspiracy theorists have to convince you that you have exclusive knowledge, and that exclusive knowledge makes you special. That is how they maintain their position of influence. They argue that exclusive knowledge is something that if you just keep watching their show, they're going to keep giving you the information that the elites don't want you to hear. Jessica says, who's worse, Jones or Asman? Asman based purely on influence. But I cannot be convinced that the dude who goes off the rails all the fucking time is the average American. I go to the taco bar with average Americans. And yeah, some of them believe in fucking weird adrenochrome shit. But that's not all of them. I'd say it's even a small fraction.
I don't know, I've just always, kind of admired him, in a way. Like, when he was coming out with the crazy conspiracy stuff, I mean, a lot of it's aged quite well, hasn't it? Like the child trafficking rings at the elite circles and stuff.
Are you talking about Pizzagate? Are you talking about that thing that was actually deliberately planted on poll by Jeffrey Epstein and his constituent or his compatriot that owned 4chan? That deliberately set it up so that they could have a ring where they could stoke those rumors and make sure that people were going down the wrong trails? That That one? That's your one? Your conspiracy theory that aged so well about the Sandy Hook victims? Really? Really? Which conspiracy? Like, the conspiracy theory you mentioned was already incorrect. That is closer to a prophecy in the way that prophecies normally function, where you have to make them sound so deliberately vague that they could mean anything. So let me go ahead and say what Alex Jones would have said in a way that Sargon would have agreed with it. There are elites in the world who harm children. That is a non-controversial statement. People who have power can and do get corrupted by that power, and what is one of the most just deliberately evil ways you can wield power? Assaulting children. There you go. Like, it's that takes 0 brain cells to say, but that's equivalently, that's functionally what you're pulling from the words he said. That's what you're pulling from them. You're pulling the most deliberately vague version of things Alex Jones said in order to say, well, they're kind of correct. No, they are not. That's not how that works. What specific thing did he say that turned out to be correct? Not the vague platitude of it, because the vague platitude of it could be used to contort into any version of a story. A vague platitude is a puddle. It can always fit into a hole.
Like, a lot of it aged a lot better than you'd expect it to, and a lot better than you wish it would. But it was quite moving. 'Cause, I mean, I've been on Alex's show a couple of times. I've been on Harrison's show as well, who's standing next to him. I met a bunch of the producers when I was there. They're all lovely, absolutely lovely. Everyone was just really, really kind, decent, genuine, and, like I said, a sense of humor and prepared to have just entertaining conversations. I got a lot of time for them, is what I'm saying. And I hate to see this happen. Now, for anyone wondering...
They were all so nice. They were all so nice when I was there. Okay, yeah, but let's talk about the things that they used. So, a dude who murders your wife can be nice to you for 99.9% of the amount of time you spend with them. But that is not what you're going to remember. You are going to remember when they killed your wife. And you could insert any tragic thing they could do. You could. Anything at all could be in that slot of, like, traumatic thing they could do specifically to you. The point of the matter is, somebody being nice is not an argument that the things they are doing are moral.
Why Alex Jones lost control of InfoWars? It's because in 2012, YouTube and social media generally had a real spate of conspiracy theory videos that were absolutely everywhere, beginning with Loose Change, and it became an entire genre that had literally tens of millions of views on some of these videos. And this...
It didn't begin with Loose Change. It began with Zeitgeist, I believe. Though, actually, which one came first? Hold on. So, I might be incorrect on here. I don't remember which one of those came first, Loose Change or Zeitgeist. Let me check myself. When did Loose Change come out? Loose Change was in 2005. When did Zeitgeist come out? 2007. Okay. Zeitgeist came out afterwards. The slew of conspiracy theory videos, though, at least for Alex Jones, I know Alex Jones got a lot of his popularity from Zeitgeist and Loose Change. I watched those in high school. There was a supercut of Zeitgeist that I watched in high school that had clips from Loose Change put in them. So for those who don't know what these are, Zeitgeist was a movie that basically argued that everything you know about culture around you is wrong. The friend that showed it to me tried to show it to me to break me out of being a Christian. It didn't fucking work, by the way. As for Loose Change, the argument Loose Change makes is that 9/11 was an inside job and it was a controlled demolition. So for me, my introduction to Alex Jones was the clips of him in the cut of Zeitgeist that I watched. My introduction to the 9/11 conspiracy theories was Loose Change, and my introduction to the idea that society as I know it around me is all actually some kind of super lie was Zeitgeist. And that's functionally what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to get you introduced to the concepts there of the like global conspiracy for X or Y so that you would buy in to that. Alex Jones used it as a way to create a very lucrative career. Get people who have watched Loose Change and Zeitgeist to then go over to his platform and then watch his radio show, which turned into the show we know today. I know this because I did this. I started watching Alex Jones in my I think it was my senior year of high school, because I was introduced to him in my sophomore year. And then I might have watched it in my sophomore year, actually, because that's when I started caring about the play a record backwards and see what it says type of shit on the internet. Like all of that weird conspiracy, special knowledge bullshit that is basically a substitute for the actual conspiracies that are going on in the world. Like, yes, there are shadowy elites in the world that are controlling shit. Yes, dark money controls more shit than you would prefer. Yes, there are evil secrets that elite people tend to hold. All of that is true. But when you have conspiracy theories that try to get into the specifics of it, oftentimes they are very, very incorrect. Said, the stuff that convinced the old folks that Pokemon was Satan? That too. That too. You've got two angles you can take with conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory as prophecy, where you have to be super vague, and anybody that's listening to it will fit in like a puddle and a hole. They'll fit in their idea of what the conspiracy is into what you are saying. And then there's the very specific one where you overload somebody with details, so that it seems like you're an expert on a topic, even if the details that you are giving are inaccurate. Loose Change did a lot of this, because when confronted with actual physicists who have expertise in the fields that they were criticizing, they were shown to be incorrect live. Like the producers of that movie were shown to be incorrect live on shows, and the conspiracy theory crowd kept cheering them on. And that's not to say that you can't have situations where an expert in a field is wrong about a thing, and it's somebody who's outside of the field that happens to stumble upon the thing they're wrong about, or even somebody else in the field stumbles on that. We have this with Richard Dawkins and gender, or Richard Dawkins and sex, where he'll say sex is binary, and then the majority of science says that sex is actually bimodal, because any system that has Klinefelters and XXY and other chromosomal variants and other variants of gametal structures necessarily does not have just two sexes. It just has two common extremes, which is what the definition of bimodal is. You can have experts that are incorrect. Should not be a controversial statement. But the point with Loose Change was to pretend they had expertise, argue a position about what happened in 9/11, argue the position with enough evidence that it seems like they came to the right conclusion, even if they might not have. We likely aren't ever going to know everything that went on with 9/11. But most of the way that the Loose Change documentary argued that it happened is likely probably not how it happened. Also, hi Rhino, I'm going to be a little bit, because I've been operating today on the idea that we may or may not be doing a stream together, so I'm in the middle of a topic. And the topic, unfortunately, is Sargon of Akkad, who's very, very sad that Alex Jones is losing access to InfoWars, because Alex Jones not having access to a tool that he used to torture families functionally is apparently a thing that he doesn't want to happen. He wants him to have access to that tool forever.
Was something that I guess Alex Jones had also watched, and he became convinced that it was a hoax. Now, I personally don't believe it was a hoax, but I don't think someone should be sued to the tune of $1.4 billion for damages for saying so.
Vice Rider says, well, fuck you for working around my not-quite-family emergency. Look, when you sent the words you sent, I just went, oh, okay, we're not doing a show today because that sounds like the kind of thing that you're not going to hop on a show because of. I'm going to go ahead and plan my day accordingly. And when I say plan my day accordingly, this is how many tabs I have, and only a handful of these are 2 tabs for one subject. A lot of these are a singular video in and of itself. I prepped for a day that didn't include you. Now I've got to try to prep for a day that does include you. Fuck. Anyway, we'll be here about 5 more minutes so that I can split the middle between Vice Rhino and also this.
Now,
but yeah, no, the to the tune of a shit ton of money thing. You have to remember, Sargon, this is going to be based on the scale of how much money Alex Jones made off what he did. It's also, I'm just curious, what's the worth of the life of a child to you? What's the worth of the life of 15, 30 children? Because Alex Jones's conspiracy brain rot shit about Sandy Hook is what birthed a shit ton of suffering for all of those parents who had children who were injured or killed in the Sandy Hook shooting. Also, it birthed Marjorie Taylor Greene. For those who don't know, one of the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene did initially that gained her fame and notoriety was chasing down David Hogg. And she did that on the back of the Sandy Hook shooting conspiracy theory stuff. She chased him down to try to argue that the shooting that he was a part of didn't happen. She told people who were victims of gun violence that actually, no, gaslight gatekeep girl boss, I'm gonna be a Republican representative one day. Axo says he gave birth to her metaphorically. Alex Jones's platform taking ideas like the loose change theory and birthing the Sandy Hook false flag theory directly led to Marjorie Taylor Greene gaining her notoriety by using those theories and piggybacking off of them and engaging in the same harassment campaign that Alex Jones was suggesting his audience should do in the first place. Vice Rhino says, and then she was like, oh my, death threats aren't fun, are they? And the enlightened centrists ate it up. Yeah, no, just the fucking... I did my video on her thing pointing out, like, you realize that the death threats against your kids isn't the thing that you're really talking about. The thing you're talking about is that Trump said that he didn't care. You worry so much once the thing affects you. You didn't worry when Trump was smoke bombing American citizens. You worried when Trump said, you're not safe and I'm not protecting you specifically. I'm just a gross human being.
Like I said, I don't agree with him on this. I don't think he's correct. And I think it was definitely wrong for him to go after them. And suing him is actually fair enough.
Good.
If you can prove and whatnot, which I'm sure they can. This... Now, for anyone wondering...
What the fuck? Hold on. Sargon, did you just have a double take that you didn't edit out? Now, I'm not saying that I haven't done the same thing. I'm not. It's just weird to see it happen where he just stops mid-recording in it doesn't look like it's a live stream. It's an edited video. It looks like. I don't see a chat or anything like that, and he's got the crop set up with everything prepared, which could be one or the other, but that's really weird.
Why Alex Jones is losing InfoWars. It's because after the Sandy Hook massacre in 2012, Alex Jones, for some reason, because he was quite the conspiracy theorist back then, as we've said, decided that he was going to take the tack that the Sandy Hook massacre was a hoax. Now, at the time, there were loads and loads of YouTube videos saying the same thing. I remember watching a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. I personally never thought it was a hoax, by the way. And I guess this became a brainworm for him because he was quite strident saying, no, this is a hoax. And the family sued him. And they won, and this is the bit where it gets really quite preposterous, $1.4 billion in damages.
No, that sounds reasonable. That's not preposterous. You have to think of the scale of the damage that he did. What is Alex Jones's net worth? Let's see here. So Alex Jones is a multimillionaire. Net worth, according to his bankruptcy documents, is somewhere in the 8 and 14 million range. $1 billion. Again, what is... Oh, sorry. This figure is heavily disputed by lawyers of the Sandy Hook families who previously presented expert testimony suggesting that Jones and his company Free Speech Systems had a combined net worth of $270 million. Oh. The numbers are a little weird. Jones filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy after being ordered to pay $1.5 billion in defamation lawsuits regarding the Sandy Hook school shooting. So, I want you to consider multiple families who are involved in this, because multiple families got harassed. And multiple families not only had to deal with the trauma of their kids being taken from them, but then they had to deal with the trauma of, because of Alex Jones specifically, thousands of people harassing them, saying they lied about their dead kids. I want you to think of the compounded psychological damage that does, and then remember, this didn't happen to one family, it happened to multiple, and it happened at such a rate that it launched the fucking career of my representative. I think you may be forgetting that in terms of scale, the damage Alex Jones caused, yes, several of them did have to move. So you're talking psychological damages. You're talking having to take responsibility for every single person who has harassed them because of his words, using his words as weapons for them. The launched careers of, I can name one, but I guarantee you there are multiple people who parroted the exact same shit, compounding the problem. And then the actual money that those families had to collectively spend in order to move to avoid harassment, seek therapy after the harassment. No. The number makes sense to me. Because the point of that number was to bankrupt him so that he would lose access to his tools. The point was to do that. And I'd say it's perfectly justifiable then. Because if it was a lower number, then we're talking about a parking ticket. And I'm not saying that because I think that what he did is as bad as a parking ticket. But what is a parking ticket? A parking ticket is a fine that you get because you parked somewhere illegally. What is the difference between a parking ticket and a parking fee for being parked somewhere legally? Functionally, there is no difference. They are both you paying an amount of money for the privilege of parking where you are. If I don't have the $60 or $70 it takes for a parking ticket, I'm going to spend the $10 or $20 it takes, if I'm lucky in the city, to park my car in a car garage. But if you are rich enough, you can just park illegally thousands of times because you can afford $60 here or there. It doesn't affect you. It's a blip on your radar. So if you do not go for Alex Jones, not just for the amount of money that you think the damages should be worth, but also for an amount of money that effectively rips those tools away from him, it's a parking ticket. It becomes a write-off functionally in his brain. It's the cost of doing business. Also, just as a thing, if the Sandy Hook thing is one of the main things that Alex Jones held on to as dear as he did, that helped pilot his and many other people's careers, if his company is worth, if the combined net worth of him and his company is $270 million right now, then what would the revenue have been for his company across this happened 2008-ish, leading into today? So that number is 2 decades worth of fucking numbers? That's 2 decades worth of revenue from that he's been using, where he's just profiting off of the suffering of others? No, that number makes sense. That number makes perfect sense to me. It makes sense from a moral standpoint of removing the tools so we can't hurt people the same way he did before. It makes sense from a functional standpoint, and this is how you have to go about that. It makes sense when you compound the damage and the actual length of time he was doing that damage together. It all makes sense. Every single bit of it makes sense to me. But Sargon, it's just a brainworm. It's just a Sandy Hook brainworm. Sargon, I wouldn't even rape you a cod, can't look at this from the perspective of the families who were hurt. He's not looking at it from the perspective of the harassment that he had to endure. He's looking at it from the perspective of Alex Jones being a peer of his. And so I can't trust anything that comes out of his mouth here. Because his perspective is always going to be, well, what if it were me? And it's not going to be what if it were me getting harassed by people who are in Jones's troll army. It's going to be, what if it were me telling people to harass people and then getting in trouble? I know we didn't cover a lot of the video, only 3.5 minutes of it, and I want to cover more, but I got a show to do with Vice Rhino, so in terms of actual number of minutes I have available, I have to cut this one shorter than I intended. This should have been like a 45, 50-minute video going over almost the entirety of this, maybe even speeding up Sargon a bit. But unfortunately, that is not happening given the time constraints. Part 2 coming soon? I don't know, maybe. I just if somebody can show me that he makes a better point later in this video, maybe. But my takeaway is he sees this from Alex Jones's perspective and not from the perspective of those that were hurt and not from a utilitarian perspective. He just sees this from, well, is it fair that his free speech was hit this way functionally? And I can't empathize with that. It's a very, very narrow perspective. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.